Today I'm talking about one of the classics of environmental ethics, Paul Taylor's theory of respect for nature. He calls the attitude of respect for nature the new ethics that should help us reestablish our harmony with nature. Now let's see what this ethics is about. So first, Paul Taylor grounds these ethics in an ontological worldview that sees all living beings as teleological centers of life. He uses this very expression, again, teleological centers of life. This expression means that all beings are striving toward goals, not just human beings, as we could immediately infer by looking at ourselves and at the goals we seek to achieve in life. For Paul Taylor, from this follows that all living beings have inherent worth. That is, there are not beings superior to our beings, but we are all on the same level. This view has the complex name of biocentric egalitarianism. Based on this view of biocentric egalitarianism, Taylor formulates ethical principles on how to deal with environmental issues. There are four main principles we should follow to respect nature. First, the principle of non-maleficence. Second, the principle of non-interference. Third, the principle of fidelity, and fourth, the principle of restitutive justice. The principle of non-maleficence is the most important one and overrides all principles. It prescribes that we must not harm other living beings. The principle of non-interference dictates that we should not interfere with the freedom of other living beings. For example, we should not transplant trees to different locations or even intervene in cases of environmental catastrophes. The principle of fidelity requires us not to deceive other living beings. For instance, we should not trick them using traps. The principle of restitutive justice states that if we harm living beings, we must compensate for the harm by doing good for those affected, or if that is not possible, for members of the same species in another ecosystem. Now, you might ask, okay, but what happens when human interests conflict with those of other living beings? Well, Taylor provides ethical principles also to address this issue. In this context, the most important is the principle of self-defense. According to this principle, we are justified in killing other living beings if our existence is threatened, but only under two conditions. The first one, we have no alternative but to kill the threatening living being. Second, we did not intentionally put ourselves in danger. But when our existence is not under threat, Taylor argues that we should act differently if the basic interests of living beings, those directly linked to our survival, conflict with the non-basic interests of humans, which are neither essential for our survival nor for the progress of our species. Then the basic interests of living beings take precedence. For example, we should not exploit living beings for hobbies such as sport hunting or sport fishing, as these activities are not essential to our human progress. However, when non-basic human interests are considered important for the progress of society, such as building airports, universities, or let's think of other strategic facilities, Taylor argues that these interests take precedence over the basic interests of living beings, provided that we compensate for the harm done. For example, according to Taylor, it is acceptable to destroy ecosystems to make space for universities or airports, as long as we compensate for the destruction of this ecosystem by restoring another ecosystem elsewhere. Overall, Taylor acknowledges the conflicts between human beings and other living beings and provides us with principles to possibly minimize this conflict and to contribute to the well being of other species next to our own. This is how, according to Taylor, we can cultivate our attitude of respect for nature.